Hola, bon dia. Carl Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show from expatsportugal.com. How are you this morning? I had an amazing evening last night. I was talking to YouTube sensations, Kaylee and Josh, those folks known as, AKA Expats Everywhere. Lovely chat with them, lovely people. And it was great to just, what I do on the Portugal show at 10 o'clock at Lisbon time, just take it a bit easy. And we had what I'd bill as a leisurely fireside chat with them last night. And they were very forthcoming with their information about moving to Portugal and living in Porto specifically. They fell in love with Porto 10 years ago. And we talk all about that. Available on YouTube now, on our YouTube channel. They've got a whopping 10,000 subscribers. There's such an amazing interest, isn't there, in travel still? Maybe it's been exacerbated by lockdown. I imagine it has. 10,000 people plus around the world finding out what it's like to live all over the world in various locations, and specifically now in Portugal. So our people after our own heart here, Kaylee and Josh from Expats Everywhere. Elsa, good morning to you. Bon dia from a damp and drizzly Prestatin. Good morning to you. Safiro in Porto. Bon dia to you, Joel. Your attendance rate is extraordinary. Gold star for you. And Ken Barnett. Let us know, Ken, how are you doing? Let me just give you the background on Ken here. Ken's been a follower of the show for a few weeks now, popping into the man cave and staying in touch with his and his mum's journey to Portugal. They're here now. They've made it. So well done, you guys. That's great news to celebrate. How's it going? Anything we can help with? Because obviously, it's all upside and excitement. And then you may well, of course, encounter a few curveballs or logistical things that may throw you. We are here to help. So let us know, Ken, how we can do that by asking us a few questions in the comments there, if you wish to. Otherwise, we'll assume it's all going swimmingly for you here in your new life in Portugal. Andrea, good morning. And she's in North Wales too, alongside Elsa, metaphorically. Bon dia. I wish I was in Portugal. It's freezing here in North Wales. I will tell you, sorry, Andrea, but I am going to tell you what the weather's like in Portugal. You might like to look away in a couple of minutes. Good morning from Muhammad Wahab. Good morning to you. We're live streaming on YouTube, and that's where Muhammad joins us. Tony in Pakistan this morning. Good morning, Portugal, says Tony. How are you doing? What's the weather like? I think you're in Islamabad, if I remember correctly. Matt Tucker, good morning from Matt. That's a fine profile pic there. Were you and your homies, Matt? Elsa, bon dia, Andrea. I think I found my holiday home. Good news, community helping each other there. Bon dia from a wet and windy Nottingham. Michelle, I haven't heard from you for a while. Great to have you here. And Tony. That's why me and my wife are moving to Portugal in the coming year by mid-February 2021. That's the theme of the show today, actually. 2021 with 2020 vision, when hopefully we are in a truly post-pandemic state of mind, and we are, we've turned a corner. I mean, it's a weird thing, isn't it? All the resolutions, but I think that the vibe is good. That we turn that corner each year, and even if we don't stick to the resolutions, we can make some, and we can get this sense that we've put something behind us and the future is ahead. And that's especially prescient, isn't it, with the year we've had so far? So how are you feeling about 2021? What are you going to take it by the horns? Are you browbeaten by this current situation, and you are just going to see what happens and let life take its course? They do say only dead fish go with the flow. But are you making plans for 2021 to take it by the horns? And I've got a couple of news articles that may inform that view of how you're going to cope and manage with 2021. We'll go to those in a minute after we've had a look at the weather, but that's after we've said hello to everybody. Hey, Louise, good morning to you. Congrats, Ken. You made it. We're both Portugal newbies from the UK. Fantastic. Beverly, bon dia. It's snowing in Scotland. What? Oh, my goodness. Oh, can we have a picture? Do you think we should have a group of Christmassy pictures with our community, with the Expats Portugal community? I mean, I think the forum would be a great place to post up pictures of the Portuguese Christmas, because still here, thankfully, so many towns are going to such a good effort to decorate the town and make everybody feel festive. I'm going to post up some pictures of Anadia. Will you do the same? Will you indulge me? And I think share a goodwill picture or two in the Expats Portugal forum. That'd be lovely to see pictures, not only from around Portugal, because Portugal does it brilliantly at Christmas, and they're continuing to do so, maybe especially in this year and this Christmas. But let's get him in from all over the world. A lovely snowy pic from you in Scotland, maybe, Beverly. Thank you for that message. Bon dia from Fanyash and Nazare. Good morning, Liz. Great to have you here. Jay Matthias is here. Bon dia here. It's too hot. Where are you? Where are you? Complaining of it being too hot, Jay Matthias this morning. Bon dia, Carl and Joel from Peter Bleach. Good morning to you, Peter. Andrea says, yeah, well done, Elsa. Living the dream starts now. That's fantastic. I'm imagining that is Portugal related. I'm good. Going to do a supply run and get some food today before moving to an area to find better rentals. We're in Guarda and still looking for a place to rent. Okay, so can we help on the grapevine here, on the Good Morning Portugal grapevine? Can we find Ken and his mother somewhere to live in the Guarda area? Anyone know of anything there? Always positive, says Tony. I will just be thanking God that 2020 is over, lol. Yes to Christmas pictures, says Louise. I mean, you can't take the same pictures as me, Louise, as a challenge is on now. See who can race down to Anadia quickest, me or Louise. Ken saying, don't fancy heading to Lisbon, though it might feel a bit hectic. Yeah, steady as you go there, Ken. Allow yourself time to settle in and become part of things. Lisbon will always be there for you. I mean, it is beautiful at Christmas, it has to be said. Very optimistic, says Elsa, about 2020. Going to book my flights for mid-January. If they get cancelled again, so be it. But we have to give ourselves something to look forward to. Absolutely right. Without a vision, the people perish. Absolutely right there, Elsa. Also trying to keep my mum safe from COVID. Absolutely right, Ken. You're a good man and a good son. I can see that. So let's take a look at the weather. Let's see what's going on and see if we can. Andrea, look away now. 9 degrees. It's only 9 degrees in Lisbon, rising to a sunny 17 today. And look at that, Andrea. Not too much to miss actually in Lisbon at the moment. A rainy few days and a rainy weekend that we have to look forward to here in Portugal. Let's see if the picture is similar in Porto. 7 degrees at the moment and a rainy day forecast. In fact, rain and cloud as far as the eye can see in Porto, but you never know, do you, what's going to happen? You know, how these weather forecasts can change. When it's sunny, I hope they won't. When it's rainy, I kind of hope they do. Coimbra, 3 degrees only. Chilly start to the day in central Portugal in Coimbra, but 15 the high. I love the temperature variation in central Portugal, but a week of rain ahead. Similar forecast to Porto in the Coimbra area. Faro, let's see how it's looking in Faro. 12 degrees and overcast at the moment. That's very still shorts weather as far as I'm concerned. 17 degrees the high, cloudy, rainy day tomorrow and a cloudy weekend, not a rainy one. So Faro having the best of it, as we often see, with a cloudy but not rainy weekend to look forward to. There are other districts all over Portugal. If you want to know the weather in a more specific district, if you're looking to move here and you want me to tell you what the weather's like on any given morning, I'm very happy to do that. Or if you're feeling overlooked because we only ever look at Faro, Coimbra, Porto and Lisbon, do give me a shout and I will make you feel included meteorologically. Okay, let's look at those news articles now. Oh, yes, just Ken's putting a bit of a spec in about his rental requirements. We need a rental with parking for a motorhome that's pet-friendly. 2 bedrooms. I think, yeah, if you're looking at Castelo Branco, you should be all right. You should be able to find something. And pop that up on our forum, Ken, definitely. That's a good ask for the forum. Elsa says it's only 3 degrees in North Wales. Morning all from Garvo. One of my colleagues from the Expat Man Cave, it gets wilder and wilder in the Expat Man Cave, and bringing a little bit of cultural excellence and highbrow value. There's a beautiful mural going up in the Expat Man Cave, the spiritual home of the Expat Man Cave in Alvagra, over there where Gary lives, the Gaz Bar. Brother Terence, gifted artist from San Martino de Porto, has put together a visual for the back wall of the man cave. It looks really magnificent, and maybe we'll see that in progress in the coming weeks. Mural painting live from the Expat Man Cave. So yes, arguably some much needed culture and highbrow value in the Expat Man Cave to balance things up over the bawdiness of the last few weeks. And Let's have a look at these articles now. Let me see. Yes, we've had a look at how optimistic Elsa is. That's a great message, Elsa. Who else then? 2021 with 2020 vision. How are you looking at the new year ahead? browbeaten into just going with the flow, or are you going to take it by the horns? 2021 and the new year. So room for a little bit of positivity, I think. A great article from the Portugal resident. Lowest number of new infections. That's what we're interested in as part of the picture, isn't it, of going forward here for the future. Lowest number of new infections in 6 weeks, actually. Is Portugal turning the corner as we turn the annual corner? This is going back a couple of days, but still good news to report from Natasha Don at the Portugal resident. Today's virus update has come in with the lowest number of new infections registered in the last 6 weeks. Let me make that easier for you to read on the screen there. Also forgot to do the day, didn't I? Well, before we go back to reading you that article, let's just do a little bit of Portuguese. You might be ahead of me. What do you got for today? I've got quinta-feira, dia 3 de dezembro. Is that what you make it as well? Okay, let's go back to that article and tell you more about these new low numbers, with focus nationally on the enormous promise of 22 million doses of vaccine on their way to Portugal starting from January. Health authority news, in inverted commas, is heartening. Incidentally, the vaccine is on its way. Will you, won't you? What are your views about that? No, it's a contentious subject. I'm not going to avoid it here. What are you thinking as far as the vaccine goes? I mean, some people are definitely no thank you, while others are like rolling up their shirt sleeves as we speak, just to make sure they get that. Where do you stand on that, if you care to share that sort of information? New infections came in over the last 24 hours at just 2,401, while the number of recoveries in the same period was an impressive nearly 8,000 at 7,935. The marked difference has meant that the number of active infections in Portugal has at last dropped well below the 80,000 mark, where it has been hovering for weeks, to 75,000, just over 75,000. Hospital beds taken up by COVID patients are also down by 67, while there are marginally less in ICUs at 521. The latter point cannot be too much cause for joy, points out Natasha, as it may have been prompted by death, sadly. The last 24-hour period has registered 72 COVID deaths. This was a couple of days ago, the majority of them 43 in the north of the country, where it's been felt worst, of course, throughout the pandemic. Deaths in the central region were next highest at 13, followed by Lisbon, Val de Tejo 11, Alentejo 3, and Algarve 2. But the overwhelming message today, as 3 billion in European aid arrives to help businesses hold on to their workforces, is that the situation across the country that is totally confined to its home boroughs until early tomorrow morning, this was until yesterday morning, of course, will go back into strict borough confinement on Friday night for another 4 days. So it's kind of like, the situation gives you some hope, and then you remember, don't you, that tomorrow it's another 4-day lockdown of within your borough. Okay, you've got to stay in your municipality for another 4 days from tomorrow. Remember that. If you're new to the country, people like you, Ken, is that something must be working? Okay, is the message behind the lockdown that's coming again for the weekend? Numbers are suddenly looking much better, says Natasha Don. Now we do have to look at this money that's coming in, 3 billion, as was mentioned there. And also want to give you a quick report on the guys who are hunger striking outside the Parliament buildings in Lisbon from the Bread and Water movement. And very, very keen to hear your comments, okay, this morning. It's very newsy this morning. We're going to be looking at these news articles to get a picture of how we're going to, put the lid on 2020 and go into 2021, just giving you a bit of background here to inform your picture of 2021, whether it's you're an expat here who's had a real curveball in your lifestyle in Portugal already, or if you're heading here, hoping to be here, and what all this news might mean for you. 2021, says Peter, looks bad for London, but good for Portugal. That low infection rate looks great, Carl. I agree with you, Peter, there. Definitely taking the vaccine, says Peter. Have had loads of shots, being part of the Century Club, traveling to over 100 countries. Oh, of course, yes, the seasoned travelers have had every kind of jab, haven't they? Usually, and of course, the part of the contentiousness around the vaccine is if it's not mandatory, which personally I hope it won't be. It will be part of a travel passport. So the seasoned travellers like Peter here will have no problem in rolling up their sleeves. Elsa says, I'm definitely all for the vaccine. I'll be in the queue as soon as it's available to me, says Elsa. Looks like they won't have to refrigerate it anywhere in North Wales, Elsa, because the ambient temperature will suit the conditions required for storing the vaccine. Marty P, we're about out of ICU beds in here in Alaska. COVID still soaring here. Wow, Marty, sorry to hear that. Peter, hope you stay safe there, Marty. Yeah, agreed. And be great to see you in Portugal in 2021. For sure, absolutely. Keeping the Portuguese pilot light lit, of course, here for all of you who want to come here, and fingers and everything else crossed for that prospect. Bom dia, todos. There are rumours you will need a COVID vaccination pass to travel by air or sport manifestations, festivals. Didn't realise you would need a passport for festivals and for sports games. I mean, that's mandatory through the back door, as far as I'm concerned. But well, I'm interested in your views on that. Peter, obrigado, kind of you. Doing all I can to stay healthy. Yes, absolutely, Marty. And you know, the thing that gets overlooked often, it's all about the drugs and the vaccine, isn't it? And very little from about personal responsibility and boosting your own immunity. I mean, we do talk about that on the show, and our man Will Thompson has obviously been talking about that. Vitamin C, vitamin D, right from the start, and zinc. Why do we not hear so much about that in the news? And I trust Marty, if you say you're doing all you can to stay healthy, I imagine you're taking a bit of personal responsibility and filling yourself up with a few immunity boosting supplements and nutrition as well, and adjusting your lifestyle accordingly. As you may remember, Aoife yesterday talking about staying fit as you get older. I mean, that was of a chastening kind of interview I did yesterday with her. I realised I've got a few things to add to my resolution list for 2021 around fitness and stopping being so flabby, basically. Guten Morgen, alles aus einem kalten Wiesbaden. So a good morning from Jim in Wiesbaden, where it's cold in Deutschland. I know what that meant, Jim, with my rudimentary German. That's good morning all from a cold Wiesbaden. Absolutely, Jim. Looking forward to 2021 when we can have a proper get-together in the alluring land of the Falconer. That's Alvaezera. You make it sound so cool, Gary, and of course it is. It's an amazing part of the country. And your mural of a cattle rustling Marlborough country style mural that you've got in a plan there adds to that vibe of the land of the Falconer as you look out across the arid plains. King of all you survey. Helen in Thailand. Bon dia. Yes, I read the article about the vaccine, but it's not mandatory. It is just global politics. Like Boris Johnson, who wants UK first? Really? No, you don't need any vaccines to travel. The numbers are low. Viruses do not do waves. Yes, that's a fair point. But those who really want it, let them choose to have it. Those who don't want it, don't need it, and have enough immunity. Huge money. Why don't they feed the people and build business again? Vaccines is politics. I have to say, I'm more in that camp. With you there, Helen, with that view. Interested in all views here, of course. That's what we endeavour to do on Good Morning Portugal and the Portugal Show, is to have a wide-ranging discussion in a way that's not always possible in other social media silos, and certainly in the news. It's so polar and limited, isn't it, the discussion in the mainstream news? But yes, interesting points there from you, Helen, in Thailand. And I did wonder, if a government is capable of shutting down an entire country and flexing its muscles in that way, shutting down, keeping people at home, keeping people off work, causing, understand with possibly good reason, doing all of that stuff, causing utter disruption and chaos in people's lives and leading them to poverty potentially, and hopefully I'll tell you about the what looks like a bit of a bailout from Europe for Portugal in a minute. So there may be some light at the end of the tunnel financially, but if a government is capable of shutting down your life like that, which is really what's happened, isn't it? I don't think that's being over dramatic about it. Why? And we've seen this with state of emergency measures in terms of commandeering property. Couldn't governments commandeer the means of vaccine production as well. Because I think what Helen's getting at, there's a lot of money in pharmaceuticals, that is. Probably not enough money in pharma with an F, it has to be said, because regenerative agriculture is another wider part of this debate, isn't it, of how we see the future. But if governments can be so devastatingly disruptive and commanding with their powers, why on earth couldn't they commandeer vaccine production and save the taxpayers, who, let's face it, are going to be shouldering this burden over the next couple of generations probably? Why couldn't they commandeer vaccine production as well, or many other pharmaceutical productions, and save a lot of money? It would appear there is a strange financial formula at work here. Maybe it's not strange. Maybe I'm just being naive here. I'm heading there in 2021. Come hell or high water, says Doreen. That's to Portugal, which is reminiscent of what I will be escaping here in the US. Nicely done there, Doreen. Yes, hell and high water in the US. You're avoiding that by coming to Portugal in 2021. Whatever. Okay, it's just a loan, Safari is quick to point out. And you're absolutely right. The governments don't have money, do they, except for the money of the people from taxation. It gets moved around as loans. Absolutely right. We will go to that in just a minute. It's just a loan from Europe. Yes, Joel, that's absolutely right. Oh, Helen, if there is a bailout from Europe, maybe the deal is to take the vaccines. As I said, vaccines is politics. Marty P. So was the polio vaccine also political? I don't know if that's questions aimed at me. I mean, I think we should. I'm dodging that bullet, basically, Marty. But it is a discussion that should be had. Absolutely right. I imagine not so much in those days, but since then, I think things have changed quite drastically, haven't they? With the amount of money that can be made from these things. You know, the production of 22 million vaccines, there's going to be some money in there somewhere. And I think I don't think we should be too cynical. That's the first thing. But it's hard not to be. When we're talking, that's what I'm saying. Why didn't governments nationalize production to keep costs down? And if you follow the money, the picture is sometimes a little bit, how do I put this? Yes, can lead one to be a little bit cynical. But in answer to your question there, Marty, I don't think it was as political then. I don't think people were as cynical at the time of the introduction of the polio vaccine. Michelle, I am happy to have the vaccine. Without vaccination over the years, billions of people would have had their lives cut short. I, for one, wouldn't want to live in a world with smallpox, says Michelle. Helen, did you know that the birth rate for Portugal is extremely low, as in parts of Europe? I wonder what you're getting at there, Helen. There is always a financial formula. That is why smallpox and polio have vaccines and malaria is still killing so many. BJ has used PPE as an excuse to enrich his mates. Yes, I don't know if you're making a connection there. If the enrichment of mates comes into the vaccines discussion as well, there, Peter. Gilda says, "Is Marty awake?" And that's a reference not to his political views, as in woke or not woke, but awake as in flipping heck, Marty. It's Alaska. It's 1 a.m. or something crazy like that over there. Gilda is asking, and thank you, Gilda, for your opening screen this morning. Your autumnal cobwebs picture I used this morning. The Oxford, and good morning to you, Gilda. Thanks for showing up this morning. Great to have you here. The Oxford vaccine costs just £3 per dose. Okay, well, that's surprising. But I suppose there is an economy of scale when you're producing millions of vaccines. I guess ultimately there's a huge investment cost, but then you'll get an economy of scale as you go into mega production. Helen says, please don't confuse diseases like smallpox and polio. This COVID is like a flu. It is a case demic based on testing, which with us, I don't know, which is faulty. Okay, which is faulty. Please note the deaths are from the complications of comorbidities, which is inflammation and degeneration in those patients. Is there a vaccine for HIV and flu that cured people? No, she says. You commie. He's talking to me there about nationalizing vaccine production. Steady on, Gary. We have American friends here. That has a very different flavor to it, I think, in America. And I didn't see that. Okay, let me just show you for a moment now, Gilda. Gilda's picture, everyone. She's as well as helping many people come into Portugal at her wonderful consultancy. I'll do it in English. EI Migration Services. Gilda is a bit of a keen photographer as well. Check this. I already took it off the screen. Actually, let me put it back on then so you can see Gilda's lovely picture. Autumnal cobwebs should be on now. There you go. It cuts me off mercifully, some might say. But there was your picture from this morning, Gilda. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. They cannot make the vaccination compulsory, but we will need a vaccination or a vacation pass, a bit of both. The vaccination vacation pass to participate in the society. If it is necessary to fly, we will have to for coming to Portugal. You can sail. I'll go over land by train, especially from Belgium. We have been taking COVID zinc, quercetin, vitamin C and D from the start to boost immune system. Well done. Yes, keep it balanced. The question is, says Will, is if they get uptake to 50% or more, plus our current 20 to 30% natural resilience, there will be a chance to play for eradication. The question is, would they want to if so much money is coming in from a yearly booster? Absolutely right, Will. Good point. Thank you, says Gilda. Yeah, I mean, I heard... what's he called? Swain. I can't remember his first name. Excellent British politician who's been a very, he's a Tory politician and a proper Tory who's been very questioning of his government's guidance in the pandemic time. He questions masks. He's questioning, certainly questioning freedom around vaccines. And saying basically that Desmond Swain, I think, for those who want it, let them have it. For those who don't want it, as a Tory, you would think, as a Conservative, it will be about not intervention of the state, and it would be freedom for people to make their own decisions. I hope it's right what he says is that if enough people who want the vaccine take the vaccine, the herd immunity that is spoken of will be achieved. But I think you make a good point there, Will. But not so much money might be made. Marty P, we needn't worry about Marty Gilda. Sleep is in short supply these days. Maybe he's using this as an insomniac cure anyway to watch the Good Morning Portugal show. Not this morning. With some rowdier talk of vaccination, I think. Ken saying, beautiful photo of cobwebs. Absolutely, that's Gilda. She's here. The photographer is here, Ken. Okay, so let's go to that 3 billion. Let's get it right. It is a loan, as pointed out by Joel. Let's see. Yes, the Portugal news this time. A little bit of a change from the Portugal resident, and I will read this for you now. Yes, well spotted, Joel. Well, a good point and well made that it is indeed a loan from Europe and not a freebie. A bailout with conditions, obviously, as well, if it's coming from the EU. Prime Minister says money will be earmarked to support unemployed and furloughed workers. Portugal has received 3 billion euros from the EU to support economic recovery and save jobs amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Antonio Costa said in a message published on his Twitter account, the fund is going to finance measures to support workers who lost their jobs and were put on layoff, as well as independent entrepreneurs hampered by isolation measures to contain the pandemic. The total amount of the loan fund that Portugal will receive from the EU's SURE program, I wonder what that acronym stands for, is 5.9. So half of it, here, you can have half. Let's see what you do with that, and then maybe you can have the other half. Is possibly the thinking here. That's what happens, isn't it, when money's doled out by big organisations? In my mind, I'm thinking of things to say about the EU and money management, but I'm not going to go there right now. I'm not going to court that sort of controversy right now as we conclude the show this morning. Let us look at some more comments. Marty P, spider webs are so cool. Combine them with dew or mist and it's magic. Nice photos, Gilda. She's a great photographer. And what would you do then with this 3 billion? Is that the right focus for this loan that's coming in? Should it be given to the people who have been put out of work? I would say that's a very good spend. How long it will take to get to them and how to assess all of that is a complete logistical, bureaucratic, and administrative nightmare, is it not? Stopping everybody working, that's fairly easy to do, isn't it? Because you can do that with law and regulation, can't you? But actually, when it comes to the matter of handing out money, the government's in an entirely different situation. Should we go for the UBI approach? If you go into loads of means testing and form filling, on the one hand, that might stop a fraud, but on the other hand, it's going to stop money getting to people as quickly as they might need it. And I refer to the guys on the steps of the government buildings in Lisbon at the moment. They are starving themselves. They're drinking water and tea until they get some sort of audience. And I think apparently the Prime Minister's response to them was that if I had to speak, it's just impossible. If I had to speak to everybody who had a serious complaint at the moment about what's going on, it would just be too many people. So I can't make special cases, is what he seemed to be saying, of people. But I believe they had an audience with a European, an EU politician of some sort yesterday, a teleconference of some kind. So how would you dish out the 3 million that's going to actually, in some cases, put food on people's tables? Okay, should we take the universal basic income, the UBI approach? It's just divide it up and give everyone an amount of money to save a load of bureaucracy, because it costs money to give out money, doesn't it? It's a pretty pass that we're in. So would that not be the best way to do it? It's just give the whole population an amount of money, divide it up, give money to every household to make sure they can buy food. And of course, what happens when you give out money like that? It stimulates the economy. Whether or not it drives us towards inflating the bubble even more is another matter, and that's something for the economists to handle. But surely UBI, non-means tested benefits or handouts or whatever, or a taxpayer's bailout, because banks have been bailed out, haven't they? Why shouldn't the taxpayers who've been paying tax all these years and have been contributing to society, you can't go anywhere without contributing to society, can you? Everything you buy with EVA on it or any other value added tax anywhere in the world. So we're all taxpayers at whatever level. We've all contributed. Unless you live under a stone, you are contributing to the economy, either by buying or making things that can be bought. So is it not time for that to be acknowledged? And okay, here's some of your money back to help you eat, for goodness sakes. Okay, a few more comments before we go then this morning. Having stirred up all those thoughts, still interested in how you plan to go into 2021 with 2020 vision. Of course, still time to share that. And that conversation is not going anywhere anyway. We'll continue to have that one. But good morning from Malta, from Sebram 2012. Good morning to you in Malta. I'm not sure if I've had anyone tuned in from Malta before. Good morning to you. Bon dia. There's a song in Dutch, Wie gaat dat betalen? Who is going to pay? It's a good question. Sounds like a great folk song from Belgium. I read the average number of people that die from flu-related problems in a year is about 12,000 on average. That is a big difference. Yeah, statistics. I mean, it just goes on and on, doesn't it, Gary? Did you read the ingredients of the vaccine yet? It is stated that they will be changing the RDA. This means your immune system will be eventually overstimulated by all the booster vaccines. So your immune system will eventually have no autoimmune response. It means you will constantly have your immunity in defense mode, eventually attacking yourself. That's what autoimmune diseases are, isn't it, Helen? There is enough scientific evidence now about the true nature of the virus. The question is, why would society allow people to be without work? What? And then it stops there. Well, I think for some people, Helen, the idea of modern medicine taking over from the old-fashioned human immune system might be quite comforting. A bit like, the vision of the future that, years ago, people thought about us in 2020 as people where the machines did all the work, where computers would have made life easier, where we'd be eating tablets and space food instead of actual food. And now, of course, this might be part of that picture, mightn't it? Is that instead of relying on this old-fashioned human bodily intelligence, it can be done by vaccines. And all we need to do is just get the right level of vaccines and the right schedule of vaccines, and we take over from the body and its old-fashioned and outdated way of keeping us healthy. Saying that slightly tongue-in-cheek in case everyone's thinking, what on earth? Costa is lying, says Safiro. Okay, that's Joel's owned comment there. He didn't speak to them. He only spoke to syndicates. That doesn't fix the situation. Okay, certainly the situation is not fixed. Absolutely right there, and that's quite a claim there, Joel, and I'm sure you can justify it. Helen, sorry, RNA, not what is it? You said RDA. Yeah, that's the recommend daily amount, isn't it? She's talking about RNA. Apparently, that's what the vaccines will change. Is your RNA? Peter, a man goes to the optician and gets, I like this. A man goes to the optician and gets his sight tested, asked what he can see. He says empty streets, closed businesses, etc. Not the politician, the optician says, you are fine, you have 20/20 vision. I'm sorry to laugh because that is such a sad joke, but it's true. It's funny because it's true. Oh dear, Peter. Considering that most of the syndicates are of the public office nature. Okay. Yes, so far Joel saying there that the Prime Minister talking to other politicians in the echo chamber in which they exist. I guess that's a fair comment to make. Okay, this will continue, won't it? This conversation about how we move from 2020 into 2021. It is still my belief that community, social capital, and us looking after each other will be the way forward for the new year. This is a very personal view, but I think, haven't we learned enough, especially this year, about centralized politics to know that there's something they do which is central politics. It's about numbers. It's about managing populations. And then when it comes down to individuals, local communities, it kind of breaks down at that level, and that's where we need to step up. Okay, centralized government is about big numbers. I haven't said that for a while, but it's the big picture, isn't it? And it's not going to be very effective at the grassroots local level. That's our job. That's our job to look at. I mean, in the ideal world, yes, of course, politics would cure everything and sort everything out. But haven't we seen enough now to know that that's not the case? That by the time these so-called trickle downs of money, directives, whatever is meant to be trickling down, it seems to dry up on the way, right? Trickle down dries up on the way. And Portugal, I believe, is so beautifully set up in terms of a governance system locally, with its freguesias, with its cameras, with its incredible goodwill on the ground among communities. Just look at the way the Bombeiros works. It seems to me, and I may be politically naive, I am politically naive in Portugal, I admit that openly here, and I always have done, but it looks to me like the structure is there, and what's required is for people to step up locally and regain some of that, what I think romantically perhaps, but some of that old Portuguese ethic of people looking after each other on a local level. The little bag of vegetables outside your doorway. That's the spirit. That's the spirit I think that we can grow, and we'll need to grow, because it ain't trickling down from the top. Anyway, let's have a look at some more comments before we finish. We will move with hope. Yes, we've learned enough with 2020. Absolutely, Gilda. That's a good note to end on. And Gary Austin says, I'm going to miss that impression. That's my, in case you missed it, that is my Donald Trump big numbers impression. Gary, there's no chance of you missing it anytime soon. He doesn't look like he's going anywhere, so I'll be able to do my impersonation for a bit longer, which I understand also sends a chill down the spine of some of our American friends here. I also notice positive consequences for this situation, says Jenny. For example, the people are more friendly in the small shops and want to support the local trade. Absolutely. This is all part of the blooming wake up. It's not just a wake up call, is it? It's a slap round the head of what's happened in society at the moment. So yes, there are upsides. Thank you for that, Jenny. Structure may be there, but the bureaucracy and the political corruption undermines all. As ever, so far as Joel in Porto, you are not politically naive. You've got the measure of the people in these places, I'm sure, but I have to cling to that vision myself, that yes, maybe another upside of this is that we will understand, like Chief Seattle said, you can't eat money. Okay, if your neighbors are suspicious of you, if you're not pulling your weight in the community, if you are corrupt and so on, your life must feel hollow, right? You can't eat money, and you can only gate yourself in so much before you have to face the people in your neighborhood. And that's once we're unlocked down, hopefully that will be the case, eyeballing people in the street. And so there will be a social accountability at some point. It's easier to hide this stuff at centralized government level, isn't it? All the corruption and bureaucracy. You know, that mess and mesh and mush and just that grey picture is easier, I think, to hide at the highest levels. Make it accountable locally is what I'm saying. DNA is like a library. The bits are taken out like books and photocopied. The mRNA in your body is like the photocopier. Excellent, Will. Loving this. Viruses don't go in your library or steal the photocopier. They just stick their own book in the photocopy machine and tell it to copy. The library, the DNA in the nucleus and the photocopier, mRNA, is not affected unless, like the lady said, it got worn out, leading to autoimmune deficiency there. Okay. A valid hypothesis, worth keeping an eye on. Thanks, Will. Thanks for, for reminding us, taking us back to your understanding of science, which has always made a lot of sense to me, and your good work right from the beginning of this. I remember those Thompson Tuesdays. Our grandchildren will hear us utter. And Marty P, community is everything. Cheers to that, Carl. Yeah, there's the uniting thing. Occasionally we're going to get frissons, aren't we, of political difference here and how we see the world. Vaccination being a very good example of that. But who would deny that ultimately we do need each other when the chips are down? And I think that's what's being said here. So community is everything. That's what this is about here. Cheers to that, Carl. And we will leave it there. Suffice to say, apart from one more comment here, what's happened to the Canadian? Don't like it when he goes quiet. Are we talking about Frank? Well, let's quiz him tomorrow night. About that. He may well be joining us tonight. Of course, he is part of the Expats Portugal Ask Our Expats team. That is our webinar. Thanks for that, Gary. That is our webinar this evening. It's a social where the Ask Our Expats team gather to be asked questions about life in Portugal. So if you need more intel, and people love getting the information, don't they, about that? It keeps the flame alive, learning about life in Portugal. So come quiz the expert expats tonight and speak to them, hang out with them, and there will be a festive atmosphere because we are being blessed with one of Jerry's quizzes, a Christmas quiz, how to celebrate Christmas in Portugal flavored quiz tonight. So we'll do those questions and then we'll hang out with the Ask Our Expats team and answer all your questions about moving to Portugal and life in Portugal. And thereafter, at just after 9 o'clock, the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club is in session, folks, with a Douro Red, the full moon red, which we will be savouring tonight under the leadership of Penny, one of the wine ninjas. My parents had the decency of raising me with the mentality that there isn't a grey area. There's a Portuguese saying, "O justo paga pelo pecador." Oh, come on. You can't just leave that there without telling us what it means, Joel. Please pop that in. And going back to community, in the words of Bill Withers, we all need somebody to lean on. Absolutely right. And, I hope that's what we are remembering in these crazy times. Absolutely. And it can't all be just done with money. Maybe we will learn, as Chief Seattle said, that we can't eat money. And yes, that reminds me of what's the Bill Withers joke? Actually, it involves animal cruelty, something like putting a platypus in the microwave until he's Bill Withers. I can't condone that sort of behavior. The just pay for the sinner. Well, that is a chilling and true Portuguese saying, if ever there was one. O justo paga pelo pecador. And continuing, thank you for that, Joel Safiro. In the words of Bill Withers, I wish you a lovely day, but I'm not going to sing it. Take care. Bye for now. See you tonight, maybe on the webinar and in the wine club. And of course, tomorrow night in the Expat Man Cave, where we can talk at length about these things and unwind with a beer in the company of other expat men and women, it has to be said. So take care. And I'll see you tomorrow morning as well. Take care. Bye for now. Te já, te logo. Até amanhã.